All right, Alice.
Hey.
All right, thank you very much.
It's all good.
I appreciate your patience. So, Alice, this is obviously my first Google Hangout podcast interview.
I'm so happy for this.
No, and I couldn't have picked a better guest to have my first Google Hangout podcast interview because you are all things Google, and I mean that. And you are absolutely amazing. I teach at a middle school, and I do a lot of professional development. And when anyone mentions or asks a question about anything with Google, I simply give them two words: Alice Keeler. I absolutely do. And I was so happy. I've been following you for quite a while, and it's really amazing that the tweets, I think Twitter is the best professional development tool that's out there. And you really tweet about things Google from primary school to post-secondary. And you are just a great source for everybody. And that's why I've been trying to have you on our interview. So, yeah. So if you would, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your story into education. I'd love for our listeners to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have 5 kids. I live in Fresno, California. My oldest is 11 and my youngest is 2. I'm currently teaching at California State University, Fresno in the credential program and teaching teachers how to integrate technology. But before that, I taught high school math for 14 years. And when I first started teaching, they gave me the lowest of the low math classes. And I've always been an overachiever, so I just had no idea there were kids at high school who couldn't multiply. And so, I do what I think would motivate me and find that it has the exact opposite effect on my students. So I thought, I'll give them a 0 on their homework because it's terrible and that'll teach them. And then they're just like, whatever, Keeler. And so, I really quickly realized that I have to really be creative and do some different approaches if I want those kids to be successful. So I think that really defines my entire teaching career, is trying to figure out how to get kids who are traditionally unsuccessful to be successful. How did I get into education, though? That's a really funny story because I told my college counselor I want to graduate with as little math as humanly possible. 3 weeks later, I changed my major to math. And then,
wow.
And then I took an intro to teaching class. My husband and I took it together, and they mixed together the elementary teachers with the secondary teachers. And so all the elementary teachers make a Creative Commons, not Creative Commons, I have my brain, Creative Memories photo book with the pinking scissors and the cute stickers. And I had collected all of the math worksheets that the math teacher I observed had handed out, and I put them in a peachy folder. So that was my problem. And so clearly I would be a terrible teacher. So I had to promise that I would never teach in order to pass the class. I'm like, that's fine. I don't want to do this anyway. And so I was going to be an actuary, which is a number cruncher, if you can imagine me just sitting behind a desk crunching numbers all day. And so I got a job working at a bank, and it was my first day at the bank. And I went home, and the high school I graduated from called me, and they're like, Alice, can you come in for an interview tomorrow? And can you fill out an application? And I thought, part-time minimum wage, full-time with benefits? Yes, I can do that. So that's how I started teaching. And, that was in 1999. And I am just in love with it. And I am so happy that the Lord just has put me on this path. It's been a blessing.
Well, that's fantastic. And your passion for everything Google, everything education, for learning, it's contagious. You are just one fired up individual. Did you enter that way into education? Were you that fired up from day one?
Well, I didn't want to teach, so I'm going to go with no. I remember my very first day, I just, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm standing in line near the secretary, and she yells at me to wait my turn, and I'm like, I just, needed, I don't remember what I needed. I need some teacher supplies, and so then I kind of mentioned that, and then she, has this shocked look on her face, oh my gosh, because I was 20 or something. I don't know, ridiculous. I just have a passion for what I do, and I love kids, and I love helping people. I right now I live in a high poverty neighborhood intentionally. because I want to be, just to be a good neighbor, and I want to be around people that can benefit from some of the advantages that I've had in life. So, when I'm teaching and I'm working with kids that struggle, that's just something I just have a heart for. I'm working on with a group on creating a charter school, and we just have a passion for kids who just, they drop out of school, they don't connect with school, and how can we help them to really be excited about that? So
that's amazing.
This is the question.
Fantastic. Now you say you started teaching in 1999. I started in 91. And so I'm guessing, like me, you went from, little or no technology in the classroom to a big transformation to technology in the classroom. And here you are, one of the most important voices, in my opinion, with spreading the Google Apps for Education. So can you tell me how that transition went in your classroom and eventually got you in with Google?
Maybe. So, when I was I got hired in January, and I started the credential program in February. And I remember in the credential program they said, we have an LCD projector, and it was huge, like huge. They had it on this cart, and they're like, if anyone wants to do PowerPoint, you can use this. And I'm like, I don't know what PowerPoint is, but I'm going to check that out. And so I made my first PowerPoint for something in the credential program, and the school happened to have connectors that would connect your computer to the TV, and no one was using them. I had to track it down. And so I started my first year teaching projecting from the TV PowerPoints for students to take notes. Like, nobody is doing this. And I think the next year I bought a camcorder because I wanted to tape myself teaching so that if students were absent or they didn't understand the concepts, then they could have a tape to go back to. I was literally getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to change the VCR tapes because I was making copies. So you can imagine how happy I am about YouTube. But it just from as soon as I started teaching, any opportunities I could to steal the technology out of the library that nobody was using, I would just hoard it to myself. Pretty much almost my entire teaching career, I've actually been one-to-one computers. They had a laptop program, so I was the laptop math teacher, and there was a laptop English teacher and a laptop history teacher, and we were able to coordinate and work together, and I think that was really influential in for me really thinking about cross-curricular collaboration. That's something that's really important to me. So I've been really blessed. I've had technology my entire teaching career, and I've had it on a one-to-one basis. So I've probably been doing that longer than almost anybody.
That's amazing. That's great. So what do you think attracts you to Google, and what has that meant for you and your students using Google Apps?
I always say this: the best feature about Google is collaboration, and it's just something I cannot live without anymore. And I'm doing a project, I always want to get somebody's input, and I just grab the link and I share it out to somebody, and they're giving me comments and ideas, and on the spot while I'm working on it, and I have to email it to them and wait for feedback and to disrupt my flow. That's what Google does for me. It's that collaboration piece that I cannot give up. I am a power user of Excel. I make access databases for fun. But I'll give up all of those advanced features because I cannot give up two things: the ability to collaborate and the fact that there's no save button. I've lost 10-page papers before. I mean, haven't we all? And I just don't lose my work when I do it using Google Drive and search, and I can just pull up my work anywhere on any device. And I think that that's a really powerful thing when you talk about students, is to be connected and to have access with them all the time. So I would post my presentations to my website just years and years and years ago. And I remember seeing my students while I'm lecturing, because that's what I did at the time, while I'm lecturing, going through the PowerPoints, the students would pull up the PowerPoints on the computers that were near them while I was teaching, and I would notice that they would, go back slides in the moment, and I think that was just really transformational for me to realize, not every student is on the same path with you. You have kids who are advanced and kids who are lower, and if you're just delivering a lesson, you're gonna miss kids. So using Google allows me to post resources. I have a saying, you know, if I breathe it, if I think it, if I sit on it, if I sneeze it, if anything, it's going to go on my website. I need to provide my classroom cannot be ephemeral. It cannot just be blown to the wind. It needs to exist in a place that kids can access at any time, anywhere, at their level and at their pace, even if I'm doing a synchronous class. You know, face to face. So I would put all my resources on the online. If I'm giving a presentation, I'm going to put the presentation online. Now, of course, Google just makes that incredibly easy. I have yet to make a presentation without a typo. Ms. Keeler, 4 + 7 is not 12. No, it's not. You know, and so I open up Google Slides, I edit it, and instantly every kid in the room has the correct slides. You know, and I'm able to fix that typo, and I don't have to email everybody out. I don't have to, you know, everyone throw that copy away and use this one. It just makes my life happy.
I was very happy to bring back Google Apps for Education to my district, and I was recognized by Google, and we got off to a great start. But I've noticed professional development-wise within my district, we're kind of stuck in a rut. We are not really going past the collaboration of documents and slides. We're just kind of stuck in 3 main Google apps. And I watch your tweets go across the screen, and you are doing everything but landing on Mars with resources. How can I help my district explore more of the apps? What apps should we be looking at? Now, you know, right now, YouTube isn't closed in our district, but it is closed for teachers and students to post videos. And I'd like you to share some thoughts about that, because it seems like the next step with Google Apps is really to have an open social media policy. Would you say that's true?
An open social media policy. Oh, this feels like a slippery slope to fall down. We always need to protect student privacy.
Right.
And, you know, all the time I'm trolling YouTube and different things and finding things that are inappropriate. So, you know, I get it, but I also realize that every kid's walking in the door with unfiltered internet access.
Right.
I think that's a sticky conversation. I love that YouTube.com/schools allows for a filtered YouTube. I'm of the mindset that we need to teach kids how to behave appropriately in a world that they're going to be exposed to. So sometimes we have those uncomfortable moments and we have to have a teaching moment, but I'm not going to recommend that necessarily, because not everyone's ready to teach that, and they don't necessarily know that themselves, to, you know, don't know YouTube well enough or have search techniques and filtering techniques well enough. So that's something that's, I think, a difficult answer. But Google Apps for Education has unlimited storage in Google Drive. So throw your videos in Google Drive. Just load it up. Just put some more videos in there. Make some videos. Put them in there. They link really nicely to Google Classroom, so you can just link out through there. If YouTube's an issue, just use Google Drive. You
really do have a solution for everything. I love it. It's fantastic. I need you on speed dial. So let me ask you this.
I'm on Twitter.
I always think, you know, great teachers are ones that are passionate like you, but also you can't help but learn just by being in their classroom. And I'm looking at the background right now, and I see whatever room you're in is painted green.
My nerd cave.
I'm guessing you use that for a green screen capture.
You are wrong. I use it to make me feel happy.
Okay. And I see.
I have a green screen, and it has lights and a pole, and I have all of that. But I could use it for this, but I just don't.
I see you also have Google Cardboard behind you.
I know. How cool is that? It's version 1. I need to get somebody to get me the new version.
That's great.
Maybe if I could at Google, they'd help me out.
Alice, I know you do some speaking. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, my life is crazy right now, so I teach at Fresno State, but then I blog, but then I also just travel and I do workshops and keynote speaking, go to conferences. So mostly I speak on Google products and Google tools, but I get a little annoyed a bit when people are like, oh, we want you to talk about, you know, how to set up Google Drive or how to do Google Docs. Like, there's 5 million blog posts on step by step, do this, and it really needs, to me, the conversations need to frame around how are we doing things differently. And so if you know, that's what I want to do. I want to go out and I want to inspire people to try some different things, and why does this make things better? And let's talk about that. How are we going to help kids? Technology doesn't help kids. Technology doesn't make things better. In fact, sometimes it makes it worse. If you've ever tried to enter grades into a grade book with low bandwidth, you'll know what I'm talking about. You got it. Using technology is a tax on your time. And if it doesn't make things better, don't do it. Go back to the old way.
Yeah, that's great. I saw a nice quote the other day on Twitter that said, you know, innovation and technology are not the same thing. And I think a lot of school districts really think the two go hand in hand. If we go out and spend money and buy technology, we're being innovative, and that's not true at all.
Not true. You know, iPads don't make things magical. Ask LAUSD.
Right. So what are some trends or things that you see teachers in classrooms that are doing it right? And what do we need to do better? Oh, I don't know if we froze or if that's just a really tough question. I think we froze.
Okay, try.
All right, here we go.
Try it again.
Yeah. So what do you see some teachers doing that are doing really well? And what can we do better in?
What do I see that some teachers are doing really well, and what can be good feedback in making relationships with kids? I think is customize the environment to help them to have passion for it. When I walk into a classroom, I love a noisy classroom. I want to see that kids are actively engaged in their learning, that they're making things, and that every kid's end product doesn't look the same. And so when you think about assigning something to do, to make your objective clear, but to make the directions vague enough that every kid could have a different outcome. And so that's something I'm really passionate about doing, and that technology helps you to facilitate, because that can be really challenging and to the point of nearly impossible is to personalize an environment without technology. So I see some trends moving in that direction of people being a little bit more willing to provide choice, and maker movement and Minecraft. I'm just so excited to see 3D printers popping up in so many schools. Where do we need to improve? I think that we need to get rid of the silos that we call, you know, like math class, English class, science class, and we have kids moving class to class, and it's my classroom, my walls. I remember when I first started teaching, the teacher across the hall gave me this advice: smile and nod, and then close your door and do whatever you want. And I don't think that that's really possible anymore, and nor should we want to. The power you get from collaboration and then cross-curricular activities to help kids. As a math teacher, I'll tell you, I'm guilty of this, is like without a lot of context, like why would you care about this? It's on the state test, or you might build a bridge with it, or not really good reasons. But there's so many applications that you can actually use and connect to other things. And so I think we could do a lot better job of having teachers work together. And in order to do that with the bell system, we need to get that you go and then you go and you use technology to help teachers to connect and collaborate together, and to track what projects kids are doing and how it can connect to more than one class. Like I do something for my history class, but I don't get credit in my English class. So that is possible, but it's hard.
Right.
And to facilitate that, you need a lot of teacher training and teacher development. And this current model where we do professional development 3 days a year isn't going to cut it ever again. The growth of technology and things that teachers need to know is exponential. The model needs to change, where I expect kids every day to learn something new. So I think every day I should.
Yeah,
teachers together we're doing class. There's assignment to be big. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. I understand that sounds like a brick, but if you change some systems, you can take some bricks off to make this something that is really helps the endurance feeling. If give you an idea and we don't come back to it, it's almost like why even bother?
Right.
A lot.
I agree. So I saw you just published a book.
I did.
It's fantastic. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Yeah, go ahead. That's a big book.
So the book, I'm sorry, what?
That's a big book. It's big.
It's big. It is. It is. It also feels lovely. It's a nice matte. The book publisher, Dave Burgess, he was like, when you get this book, when you feel it, it's just in September, Google Classroom came out, and someone had sent me an email you could do with Google Classroom. So I just brainstormed a list, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to put that on my own blog.
That's wonderful.
72,000 hits on that. I've added to that, started with 20. So I've added to that list. I have 50 things that I put in the book. You'll notice the layout in here is fantastic. It's very colorful. It's got screenshots because it's easy to read. But it's not a how-to manual. I do have in the beginning, this is what Google Classroom is. Here's the parts of Google Classroom. So if you're not familiar with it, the book's going to introduce you to what it is. But as I said, I'm really into how are we going to teach better with this. And so that's what this is, to give you ideas of how to approach learning in a different way.
That's great. Well, I'm going to put a link to that book up in the show notes. And I want to thank you for taking time to be with us today. I recommend everybody follow you on Twitter. And I'd recommend every school to pick up your book, every teacher. It's going to be my summer reading. And I'm going to put a blog post up about your book as well.
Thank you so much.
You know, I see you, I guess I see you on Twitter.
I'm slightly biased.
But to meet you and talk with you, your energy is just fantastic. So thank you for your patience today, and thanks for the interview. Fantastic. All right, Alice. Thanks a lot. Okay.